Hello there. This is Rom Wills coming back at you with yet another podcast. Expanding your boundaries. Expanding your boundaries. Yeah. Now, you know what? Anybody who's really listened to me talking about the nature of man, I talk about our boundaries. All men have a boundary. If you're a man and you truly masculine, you have a boundary. Your boundary starts first within yourself. And then within about 3 feet of you, which is why we get funky. A natural man get funky, you get too close to him. But that's just our nature, because that's the nature of masculine energy, is to have boundaries. But here's the thing. Okay, you want to develop your own personal boundaries, your space, and you don't want anybody in your space. That's cool. And I'm going to tell you, hold up, let me tell y'all something real deep about it. A man's boundaries are so tough that even his wife might not be able to violate them. Now, she got permission to cross them, but she's not in his boundary. Like if a woman was in a man's boundary, there's no way he could hurt her. And if somebody were to try to hurt her, he would lay them out. See, and that's one thing for people to understand about men. When a man considers you part of his boundary, he'll do anything for you. He'll protect you, provide everything. Like children tend to be in a man's boundary. You ever see a man who's real peaceful until you mess with his kids? Oh, he's going to hurt you. You're violating his boundary. But let me talk about just expanding your boundaries. See, your boundaries first starts with yourself, but then you got to expand it. Now, on several occasions, I said at a minimum, a man should have his own place. And if he don't have it, there's no shame if you living with your parents or something. Like, it's no shame, even if you're older. There's no shame in it, especially with the tough times. But every single time, a man should be expanding his space. Even if he's living with someone, he could be living in a basement. That should still be his space. And it's very important that a man takes it and expands it to another level. But it's even better when he has his own space. That's his space. Now, it could be like, it could be anything from a studio apartment to some land with some acres. That's your space. That's normal for men to do that. And when you have a wife and kids, well, hopefully she is a part of your boundary. Like I said, many women are just, they can cross the boundary, and women cross it regularly without thinking about it. But if a man considers her a part of his boundary, that's truly his wife, and then his children. He's protective of them. So that's very important. That's why I had to talk about it twice. But you want to continuously expand it. So you start with yourself. You want to get yourself under control. You want to get your own being under control, because that's your primary boundary. But you want to expand it. You want to have your space. I'm going to tell you what, on a psychological basis, like, in these spaces, we have many men who will talk about man gets woman and everything. Psychologically, a man who got his own space got a leg up in that thing called game. Psychologically. Why? Because he has his own space. He's the ruler there. He's the king. That's why I don't like generally using the terms alpha and beta, because in my view, it's my personal view, every single man's an alpha if he has a space he's in charge of. He's an alpha if he's a family man. He's the man. He's running that space, his corner of the world. And indeed. So he wants to expand it, so he wants to have his space. And that space needs to reflect him because it's his boundary. He wants to own stuff. That's your boundary. You want to have ownership. More men need to think about owning their boundary, and working to own it. Like, it's hard. Let's just be real. It's hard for us to totally own something, especially in this society. Work towards it. In fact, in my book, Nice Guys and Players, I said every man should have a way that he makes money, even if that's outside of his main job. And like, he could be making 6 figures, 7 figures on a job. Hey, that's great. You want to have something you totally control. That's expanding your boundary. And indeed, if we're going to go deeper into it, even when you're working for someone else, have some type of boundary. Have some type of boundary. Have your space that you running. Like, if you got to be in someone else's space, put yourself in a leveraged position where you're running it. In my book, Nice Guys and Players, Once again, talking about every man should have something he can control. I strongly suggest all men get them a little side hustle that they control, a little business, even if they don't really need the money for it. You know, because I've known some men, they were either retired or, they were making enough money, but they still had something on the side. And it's not so much about the money, though, Rom loves making money, but it's more about you got control over it. It's within your boundary. You make the rules. Like every man should have someplace, something he makes the rules for. He's totally responsible. I'm going to tell you how powerful that is. It makes a man stand up to be a man. Every single man, like I say, in my view, and I hope this view expands, every single man's an alpha. I don't like that alpha and beta stuff. I'll use it if I'm trying to make a point and people understand generally what they mean. But every man should be the alpha of his world. He should be the king of his world. I would even use the term God of his world. If he's not there, he needs to work towards it. That's the main thing. Because ultimately, if you're talking about, even with women, what do women want? Yeah, they like a good looking guy and all that stuff. They want to be made love to. Notice I say made love to. You got control over that. But they want some man who's going to protect them. They want some man who's going to provide for them. They want some man who could see what's coming and take the necessary actions. Oh, you should be running stuff then. If you're going to, and I've told women that you want a man to do all that, well, you need to follow his program. Do you want protection, provision, all that stuff? Well, he should be following the program. But, you got a lot of men out here, they don't want to do that. They don't want to build for themselves. They don't have a pot to piss in. Every single man should be working towards it, working towards expanding your boundaries, your empire. And like I say, start first with yourself. Start first with yourself and then expand that to cover other things. Okay? Expand that. Expand it. If you got a business, you got a space. Hey, sometimes people see how I am on my YouTube spaces. That's because it's my boundary. You playing by my rules. If I'm on somebody else's page or channel or something, and they say, well, no, this is how you want to be, I'm going to respect it because that's their boundary. And that's how it has to be. That's what it means to be a man. So anyway, y'all, I'll get back with y'all. Peace and blessings.